Okay, we're going to try this out. I'm going to try and talk about some of the issues surrounding a lot of this stuff that I find interesting. One of them is Cranky is interested in death in some way. He's interested in the avoidance of his death, so to speak, And by that I mean he wants death to never happen. He wants to always have been this great video game hero that he could have been, And that affects Donkey Kong's life in a particular way, because then Donkey Kong feels like he's worse than that. If Cranky is constantly trying to avoid being irrelevant, then Donkey Kong, I think, feels very heavily pressed by that, as if there is a weight on top of him that's plastering him onto the floor. And that weight, I think, is the importance he gives to Cranky Kong's words. Cranky Kong says a bunch of stuff, right? Whereas Candy Kong is, I think, visual for Donkey Kong. I think that she strikes poses from a distance. She's wearing like a swimsuit or something, where her appearance, her physical appearance, is important, I think, to this game. And Donkey Kong, therefore, I think, has a very visual relationship with her. He sees her from afar. He's barely even touched by her. There's a lot of distance between them. And whereas, for example, he is touched by Cranky, Cranky beats him with a stick to the ground. So in any case, the senses are affected differently by both of these characters, I feel. Candy is something visual for Donkey Kong that he looks at, and she is presented as something visual, something that wears a swimsuit, therefore is kind of like already visually kind of dressed to be seen a particular way, stands kind of at the sideshow, performing strange kind of like, sexy gestures and things. So anyway, that's one of the things that's going on. And Cranky, on the other hand, speaks and says a bunch of things. And a lot of these things that he says seem to weigh heavy on Donkey Kong, I think, because he feels as if he can't be really sort of good enough if everyone else is telling him constantly that he's not, and everyone else here being Cranky. So I think the voice of Cranky is important for him. This comes through in the manual. The manual kind of emphasizes this aspect of Cranky as a figure that is towering and kind of big for Donkey Kong. The manual places, Cranky in this position where his words are very, I think, important for Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's kind of scolded and scared of this scolding that he receives from Cranky. Why is he scared of this scolding that he receives from Cranky? I think because it prevents him from being himself. It kind of prevents him from expressing himself in a way that he would like to. It's encapsulating. It puts him into sort of a position of closing in. Cranky has that effect on him. Even if current Donkey Kong doesn't want that effect to happen, it seems to happen. That's the effect that Cranky Kong has on him, you could say,